Pathos was the same as Jupiter in layout, except that the board was dark blue rather than green. The first thing I noticed was that all the usual level icons had been replaced by a blue rock and some kind of orange honeycomb shape. There was one icon that had part of the jungle icon, but I didn't pay much thought to it. I checked the other side of the board to see the new monster. Instead of Hedera, it was Biolente. But that couldn't have been right. Godzilla vs. Biolente didn't come out until 1989, and this game was made in 1988. Perhaps Toho put Biolente in the game to build excitement for the movie next year, but changed their mind? I tried to rationalize the game abnormalities any way I could, but this would prove to be futile. Pathos Map Song was the first new song I heard in the game. Like most of the new songs, it was hard to describe. I'll try. It started out slow, suspenseful, much slower than any song in the game. But every 12 seconds or so, there'd be a large clashing sound, and the tempo changed. It was like the composer randomly played parts from 5 different songs with the same instruments. I moved Godzilla over to one of the many of the blue rock icons that have replaced the jungle icons and started the level. The level resembled a blue mountain range with a blood-red planet in the sky, but there was something odd about the mountains. They had a shredded paper look to them. I thought at first maybe the glitch had affected it, but it looked far too intentional. I quickly noticed something else about this new level. There were no enemies. At all. Not even any obstacles. I should also mention that this was where the point meter started to become glitched beyond comprehension, but it didn't bother me much. I never kept up with game points. So, without anything to focus on, I listened to music while walking through the level unopposed. The music had a sorrowful feel to it. Would have been rather pleasant, had I heard it in a normal game. The level went on for 3 screens, but with no obstacles around, I finished it very quickly. I tried other levels of the same type to see if any enemies appeared, but there weren't any. There was little else to be seen in the Blue Mountains, so I tried another level type. I started one of the orange levels, and my eyes were assaulted with a grotesque background of tumorous orange eyes. The sky was the same as the ground, so I assumed this was indicating that it took place in a cave. The only enemies were Matango spawn, but as you can see, the little bastards were everywhere. Music certainly didn't help. The mixture of screeching sounds and loud drum beats that sounded like a monster's theme in a horror film. After completing it, I tried to avoid playing through any more of these levels wherever I could. The map was short, so it was only a few minutes before I was headed towards a rematch with Geezera and Magra. But this time, their sprites and attack patterns were vastly different. I fought Magra first. Magra's replacement was a flying machine with a slight semblance to a Pescagula alien. It was a bit like fighting Mothra, only it moved with a lot more grace. It attacked by spinning its front tentacle like a corkscrew. It still had an I-beam, except now it fired from the drill. This lanky aberration replaced Geezera, and the new beast was more of a challenge. It would run and jump at a fast pace, constantly swinging its arms around, making it hard to get close. And of course it tried to pin me in the corner with as much annoying resolve as ever. I defeated it using a combination of tail whips and heat beam spamming. I defeated them and went to fight Titanosaurus. But when I started the fight, Titanosaurus was nowhere to be seen, and the game simply went back to the map with the Titanosaurus piece now missing. There was no one left to fight but Biolente, so I started the fight. I was quite surprised that Biolente started the fight in her rose form. She was immobile and used tentacles to keep me away from the main body, which took most of the damage. As expected, she turned into her final form after taking much damage. This probably looked pretty damn good for 8-bit. The battle technique was the same, except now Biolente can move, albeit slower than any other creature. Being hit by the tentacles did more damage now, and Biolente could do an acid spit, which I managed to avoid by jumping in the screen cap. Not much more difficult to beat than Titanosaurus. It only took 2 rounds. But when Biolente was gone, the music stopped, and there was a new icon replacing the base. The icon wasn't there before I beat Biolente. It resembled a red tribal mask. I had a feeling of dread when I saw it. But since it replaced the base, it must be the only way to exit Pathos. I moved Godzilla to the square, and started the level. It was a hellish looking place with no sky, and a fire flickering in the background. The fire looked far more advanced than anything I had ever seen on the NES. There was music, in the form of a slow, steady drum sound resembling a heartbeat. All the text on the top of the screen and the life bar were gone. In their place was a single bit of text in the middle of the screen that said, "Run!" My feeling of dread intensified. I cautiously walked through the levels, but like the Blue Mountains, there were no enemies. I paced around for a minute before thinking, run? From what? First time it hit me, I didn't even see it. I heard a noise outside my room, so I turned back to see if something fell. And when I looked back, Godzilla was dying. I figured it must have been a glitch, but I wasn't going to play the game without Godzilla, so I restarted the game, went to the password screen. Have I ever mentioned how creepy the password screen music is? If you played the game, you know what I mean. It doesn't fit the mood of the game at all. It's more like something from a horror game. Maybe they made it like that so kids wouldn't cheat. I was quite annoyed at this point, because I thought I was going to have to fight all the monsters again. That didn't happen. The game started me off right where I was before I started the red face level. So I tried again, making sure to pay attention this time. That's when I heard a low bellowing sound. Then I saw it. This thing. Do you know that feeling your body has when you're in extreme danger? You start to recoil and tense up as adrenaline flows through your veins, and your nerves start to feel cold. That's the feeling I had when I took this screen cap. I haven't seen the Godzilla movies at all, but I was pretty sure that this was never in any of them. It had to be something the creators made up. What kind of sick fuck would put this in a children's game? By sheer dumb luck, or maybe an adrenaline boost, I managed to run fast enough to get away from it. It ran very fast. So fast that if you saw it, you were almost certainly going to die. And when I say die, I mean your monster gets killed instantly if the creature touches them. Once I'd gone back to the map, I was so afraid that I was extremely tempted to just shut the game off and try to pretend this never happened. I couldn't believe what I had seen. It couldn't have been real. And even if I wanted to continue, I still had to get Mogra through this trace level. But as I stayed inactive on the map screen for a few minutes, my fear was replaced by a burning curiosity. What the hell just happened? What was the rest of the game like? I only had to beat this game with Mothra, and then it was on to the next world. When I moved Mothra to the red face, the game registered it as me beating the level. I was quite relieved. I tried to prepare myself for the next world. Trance.